Hi, and welcome back to my book club series, where I share books that have shaped my life and my work. In this video, I'm going to be sharing 5 books that I believe every woman should read. Yes, I'm sorry folks, but this is a girls only video. The 5 books that I'm sharing today specifically sit within the personal development self-growth category and have had a specific impact on my life and helped me see things differently or do things differently, which is why I believe these are the 5 that if I could kind of hand them out to every woman around the world, I literally would. The way in which I'm sharing these books is also in no specific order, so you do not have to read them in the order of this video. In fact, just pick something that intrigues you and see where it takes you. And you don't have to even read all 5 books. These are just 5 books that have had a very real impact on my life and how I do or see things. So let's get into it. The first book I want to share with you is Wild Power by Alexandra Pope and Shani Hugo Wurlitzer. Now, as you can see, I haven't just read this book, I have studied it. And I was introduced this book or recommended it by my sister-in-law because I was at a time in my personal growth where I really wanted to tap into more of my intuition, my physiology. And where that starts as a woman is with your menstrual cycle, because how can we ignore the age-old wisdom that comes from our cycle? So I have a general tendency to be an overthinker, a worrier, someone who is very much up in my mind. And I wanted to really start to balance that out by making sure that I was tapping into my physiology, the knowledge that comes from our internal guidance. So my sister-in-law recommended me and said, you need to read Wild Power. It will change your life. And it absolutely has. So since I've read this book, there's a few things that happened. The first one is that you practice menstrual cycle awareness. And what this helps you to do is to tap into the rhythm and seasons of your cycle so that you can start to organize and be cyclical with your life as well, because as women we have seasons, so we're not always in this high energy, high productivity mindset. We have seasons where we are more creative, more restful, and our energy ebbs and flows like that. And so by practicing menstrual cycle awareness, I've then been able to shape my life, my work, and my business around my menstrual cycle. And this is so rare. I was at a women's networking event recently and the host said, hey, put your hand up if you take off a regular day every month. And I put my hand up because I was like, I take off my period. I always do, because that way it enables me to rest, restore myself, nourish myself, and come back better. I know that when I have that as a rest day, I am much more productive, creative, all of those things. So it's really important for me to take that day off, and no other person put their hand up. Obviously, I'm very privileged that I get to do that because I run my own business, but it also made me highly aware of how we don't talk about this in the workplace. So this book has massively shaped how I organize my life, because like I say, we aren't built for this 24-hour, always on capitalist system that we live in. So the best bit of rebellion we can do, ladies, is to tap into our cycle. I also interviewed Sophie-Jane Hardy from Red School on my podcast. So Red School is the company that the authors have founded. It's the organization that supports the knowledge and education of women around their menstrual cycle and menopause. So if you're in menopause, they have another book called Wise Power, which I'll pop here, that you should also definitely read. But that is one book that I would say has had a profound impact on how I shape my life. The second book I have for you is The Secrets of Six-Figure Women by Barbara Stanny. Now, this is quite an old book, actually, like super old, and I was recommended it by my, let's have a look. So this was brought out, the first edition was 2004, 2002, oh my goodness, 2002. So this book is nearly 23 years old, and I was recommended it by one of my coaches. And oh my goodness, Every woman needs to read this, especially when it comes to financial literacy, understanding more about money, having money confidence. I think it's one of the super dangerous topics we don't talk enough about as women, because so much of the financial system is controlled and owned by men, and that also gives them more power over us, more choice over us. So for me, when I was going through my personal growth phase of developing my money mindset, this was a pivotal book in helping me shift my money mindset. Because if you have mindsets such as money's evil, money's not good, all of these kind of things, you are going to lock down and push out your ability to make good money. And in my mind, money as a woman is so important because it gives us choice and freedom and independence. So if you're really trying to work on your money mindset specifically, I would say this is an absolute must read. Every girl at school should be reading this book so that we all come out financially literate. The other thing I will say about The Secrets of Six-Figure Women is that it gives so many great stories and examples of women who have made six figures, who aren't all doing corporate careers. So it gives lots of context and examples of that, no matter where you are in your financial journey, what job you do, what work you do, there are strategies and ways that you can become a six-figure woman. Okay, ladies, if you're a little bit prudish, then this one probably needs to be slightly censored for you. So maybe skip to the next one, because this book, Pussy, A Reclamation, is not for the faint-hearted. But oh my goodness, is this an absolute female liberation. So I was recommended this by a friend of mine who said it totally changed her life, and I can understand why. The best way I can describe this book is that after reading it, I sat in a coffee shop and I felt so high, like I was on some kind of drug, and had so much energy and excitement from what it had unleashed in me. I honestly didn't know what to do with myself. I just sat there and had to write and journal because I just felt myself almost internally combusting. If you are lacking confidence, if you are just generally at a really low point in your life as a woman, then oh my gosh, you need this book because it is all about self-liberation. And yes, it starts with our pussy power. And I'm allowed to say that because that is absolutely what Regina will tell you, that we need to take back ownership of the word pussy. So if you are connecting back with your pussy, this is powerful stuff, super powerful. Unlocking that feminine energy, that confidence for you to go after what you really want, what you really desire. And one of my favorite practices in this book by Regina is something called brags, gratitudes, and desires. And it's something I actually do over voice note with my friend. So you brag about what you've done really well, because as women, we diminish ourselves. We always kind of lower everything down. We're not expansive, we don't take up space. So bragging about 3 things to brag what you're really done really well. Your gratitudes, what are you grateful for? And your desires, what is it that you want and that you are claiming and that you are owning that you want that as well. So if you are ready to amplify yourself, ladies, you need to add this to your list. And even I gave this to my sister-in-law recently and she was like, oh my gosh, that book. I'm like, I know. It will start something in you. It should probably come with a warning. It's that good. The 4th book that I have for you is Women Who Run with the Wolves. Now this is a hard read. Again, I was recommended this, and if I'm really honest with you, it took me a while to get into because the writing and the language is quite intense. It's highly descriptive, so it can feel a bit repetitive at times. But essentially, this book, again, is by Clarissa Pinkola Estes, and she is a psychoanalyst who goes through folklores, fairy tales, and interprets them about the wild woman's psyche that we all have within us. So it's absolutely amazing if you've ever looked at fairy tales or folklore and wondered what's like the hidden myth or the hidden meaning behind that, then this book really goes into it, and it for me personally, highlighted so many stories that we've been told maybe as children or in our wider culture, and what the essence or understanding of that is. And she's collected stories from all over the world, everywhere from the Scandinavian regions all the way to South America, and collected these stories and then analysed them around this feminine psyche of the wild woman. And again, it just helps us tap into that instinctual nature and connect with some of these deep-rooted stories of our journeys as women. So if you're wanting something that's quite mythical based, that has like little bits of stories throughout, and then has an interpretation that you find quite fascinating, this book is definitely for you. Like I said, it did take me a while to get into it, so and it is quite a big one. It's quite a beast, but it's so fascinating and something I will definitely come back to. But it did take me a while to get into it. The fifth and final book I have for you is The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown. I absolutely adore this book. And I kind of have a fangirl crush on Brené Brown. I don't always agree with everything she says, but she's a human being. And would I turn down a dinner invite with Brené Brown? Absolutely not. Would I go and talk to her at an event if I saw her? Absolutely. She is just like this warm soul who I just really, anything she writes, I resonate with. But she's also human, so I can't say I have agreed with everything that she's ever said, but she's human. However, The Gifts of Imperfection is a classic, and I loved it so much I hosted a read-along, a women's only read-along across, I think it was like 6 to 8 weeks, and we took it chapter by chapter, and I provided activities and coaching questions, because this is a book that I have come back to time and time again, because it's all about living wholeheartedly, living by our own truth, not the influences that we get from outside, that people that maybe have an agenda. So whether it's family, parents, relationships, or even like social conditioning as women, this helps us really go back to ourselves and look at some of the pillars and the practices that we can integrate into our lives to still feel like we're living fully, wholeheartedly for ourselves. So this is a truly nourishing book. And it also comes with, I believe there is a little quiz online that I will link in the description below, where you can rate yourself on the pillars that are covered in this book. So you can start to identify where you sit in the kind of energy bar of particular areas. And then, you know, after you've read this book, see where you're sitting afterwards. So it's also very practical. There are practices in this that help you integrate what Brené is talking about as well. So hence why I adore this. And the women that were on that read along with me all said the same thing, that actually integrating this across like 6 to 8 weeks that we did it for was truly life-changing. And there were practices that they've continued since starting this book. So what can I say? It's an absolute must read. So those are my top 5 books every woman should read. If you have one that you're like, no, Lizzie, you need to read this one, then please do drop it in the comments below, because as you know, book club series is all about books. I'm a bookworm. I love reading. I love sharing what I've gained from books and why you should go and read them. And yeah, I would love to hear what books I should be adding to my list, and I'll make sure I've linked all of them in the description below. But thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next week.